Welcome to CelestesStories audio writing recordings. I wanted to make my articles more accessible. I am a storyteller after all. I have a whole lot to say about Faire, and so here's the vibes. Fall Fair, family focus. Faire came back in the fall, and in October 2024, my second festival was an adventure to tell. I came to this experience with a different perspective than the spring before. This was a limitless solo adventure, bringing learning through both being alone and intersecting paths with friends. I found community in my own heart as well as in my family back home, and I found family in the friends surrounding me already. My heart has shifted with new relationships, and it is my heart's hope to connect you to the story that changed me. Perhaps at the next Okanagan Family Barter Fair in the spring, we will connect. Who made camp for me? I made some amazing new friends and brought with me the best of the old to camp in community for Fall Fair. My girl Chives is still my best friend, 6 months after our last spring fair adventure, and we camped together again. I am so grateful to her for a million reasons, but especially because she is such a connector to people. Through her, I met a new friend into family, Castle. This man is 52 and full of life and perspective. The adventures have already flowed in, and his recent connections have meant a lot to my path. He is one of my biggest hype fans for my original music and supports me embodying the best version of myself. Chives has now been a best friend for a year as of this publishing, and she continues attracting good into my life. She brought along her partner, Hassan, also known as the character wizard, the Hat Man, making wizard hats to trade for his first fair. Gotta plug my creative DJ friend, Buena Vista, and if you want to see his awesome hats, check out his Hat Man Instagram too. He has become a cool friend in the community from more recent adventures, and I'm proud I got to wear around for an afternoon this red wizard hat that he made and traded. Someone else special now gets to keep, wear, and love it. Hassan also brought along his friend Sal, and the 2 and 3 of us had some good times laughing and smoking weed together, big chilling. This little community of my camp really made the vibes for my weekend. I am so happy synchronicity brought me these friends to stay with for this weekend. Where we stayed was another blessing. Finding where to camp in the outskirts of Faire was a chaos chromosome moment. Turn synchronicity. I'm following my friends Castle and Chives, a white and black Prius line winding up and down paths between camps clustered together. We did not end up with vending tickets, so we were at the mercy of navigating general camping. These spaces are not mapped or divided, and you make camp where you find room and expand to fill it. After our first good loop, Chives gets out to my window and mentions scoping out the ravine. I was confused when we looped nearby multiple more times. She came back for a vibe check, and I felt called to see the ravine space she mentioned before, and that's where we were led. Just under the prayer flags, in the flattened part under the hill and above the ravine, there was an open space faded and set aside for us. We squeezed, and it was tight, past a few camped on the roadside, and tucked ourselves in with more than enough space for all of us. We ended up exactly where we were meant to be. I slept in my Prius bed in the back, but this season I got an air mattress, and it really upgraded my experience. I also popped up a tent to change in and keep bags stored so my car was more clear to live inside. I am learning from last time, and I planned so well. Right off the start, I met some amazing people. Through a neighbor connection, I networked with AK, who owns the company Blaze Bags, making smell-proof cannabis storage and accessories. We had some excellent vibes at camp. Sharing space. I had to purchase a magnetic lid tray with a lovely art display to bring home to my brother. He was just saying how he knocked his entire tray and ground stash on the carpet recently, so a lidded tray was fitting. I also wanted the neat pipe with a lid and attached lighter, but someday. Sunday afternoon, I spent $4.20 at a raffle for blaze bags because it was near camp and it lined up. I intend to connect further with this company, and I get behind the message they are spreading. Go check out the social media for Blaze Bags 420 and see what cool smoking gear they offer. From where we camped by the prayer circle, it wasn't even a far walk into the vending space of Faire to find my favorite crystal tent. I got to share last May about some new friends that run the All Good Things crystal store in Wenatchee and the special group that came along. Those friends, since then, feel like they have become family, and their vending space this fall felt like a home base when I was amid the chaos of Faire. When I was wandering and looking for a place to rest and good vibes, I was always welcome. When it was cold, they had a propane fire pit, and I gathered there in good company most of the cold evenings. Even when I popped in, they fed me where they could, like last time. Justin and Annalie have an amazing school bus they had been renovating, and this was its christening adventure. I got to spend wonderful more time with my close friends, Max and Trent, as well, and as a group we had amazing adventures, dancing and listening to live music and watching fire dancers perform. One of my favorite memories was the first night in this circus tent, all of us together dancing to EDM with these foam glow sticks waving. There is carpet to dance on, a section of the room with pillows to lay and sit on the floor, and a long gas fire splitting the room. My entire group with Chives and Castle 2 was in one circle bouncing together. The vibes were immaculate, and it was such a small memory snapshot in time, and it didn't last long. There was so much dust in the air, so we danced until we couldn't breathe, and then stepped outside into the cold night as a group. The gratitude and love I feel for these people is unmatched. On a Saturday night, after many laps walking across Faire for multiple scheduled shows at different venues across camp, I found myself back at the Crystal Store home base on Blue. It started quiet with chill bonding time with Justin and Trent. Soon, Max and Annalie joined, bringing with them calm and then chaos. Laughter connected our souls in friendship, us 5 in Penta. We found ourselves playing the longest game of Uno in my entire life. Late into the night, we were all determined to not let each other win, and it was hours passing around cards and laughing. Trent won the infamous last game. There was also silly giggling with the foam glow sticks and a kaleidoscope. All you need to entertain a handful of adults. Synchronicity leading me Saturday. The next day, one of the first genuine trade interactions this weekend was with this lovely woman, Sarah, that upcycles sweater fabric into these amazing coats, hats, and gloves. Her style is so unique with these hoods that come to a wizard point or have cute ears. Back in spring, my friend Chives managed to trade for a green coat Sarah made, and it was one of the coolest types of art I saw that weekend. I had not realized how much I needed something of my own to feel complete this fall fair. Chives, Castle, and I were browsing her tent, and Sarah thought my Plarn bag was awesome. I made the plastic yarn, and my mom crocheted this rectangular bag a couple weeks before we came here. I felt it was worth about $40 to me, and she agreed and was willing to trade for a pair of gloves and a hat valued the same. When I picked the green hat, my friend Castle made a big deal that it made my eyes pop. The hat even has a pocket. I rocked that look for much of that weekend, and they kept me warm in the unpredictable chill. Casually walking through the aisles, I came upon a sweet girl named Lily. Her table was covered in trinkets from her many travels, it seems. She saw the value in a handmade hemp necklace with orange beads, and I traded her for this lovely wooden bracelet. At first, it was just a pretty piece of jewelry with redwood beads, but then she told me that she got that bracelet when she visited Bali. That piece means something special and more to me because I know it was handpicked by this girl when she visited a distant country. I imagine there are even stories attached to how she got it, and maybe even more stories from where she wore it. This is a special example of what I'm trying to do here with Celeste Stories, to add value by shifting our perspective. I would love if this exchange of jewelry could lead to a future exchange of stories. As the day moved along, synchronicity brought me back to Archie's glass. Follow his Instagram. There are tons of glass-blowing artists at Barter Faire, and I was looking all day for a nectar collector or a glass straw to smoke dab. I didn't ask until I asked Archie. He thought my Puerto Rico trinkets were super neat and was willing to trade a glass straw and a beautiful mushroom pendant for the white-based trinket I made. Mid-exchange, after sharing about Celeste Stories, he introduced himself as Archie. I then realized he made my first pipe I got at Spring Fair, Sunday night at the end of the adventure. It had been well loved and used with this beautiful UV reactive stem. I was even carrying it with me for this exchange, and I pulled it out so we got to see how the colors changed with the resin inside after use. Synchronicity swung again when every glass purchase got an entrance to a raffle being held at 4:20 later that day. I left and was sure to come back and buy a few more raffles to support his family. Dozens of people had gathered in the aisle with their own pipes, bongs, and bowls to smoke together for 4:20 p.m. There was a countdown like you would see on New Year's, and then a massive smoke cloud and cough chorus. This was a community memory that hit so hard for me. Imagine the collective weed-smoking spirit in all of us together for a similar purpose. Following the 4:20 session, the raffle was read out for a marble and a couple glass pipes. I did not win, but my friends Jillian and Joe won the marble. She told me how she predicted the ticket winning the moment before it was called out in some powerful luck here. I had not found them yet, but intended to track them down and buy some of the schnapps I got to sample in spring. I followed them to camp, and while waiting to get my drinks from them, I wandered to trade for this teapot across the aisle I'm gonna love and use. This friend had noticed my Plarn bags across the way and traded her friend's tea set for this small bag shaped sort of like a teapot. It was a funny irony when her friend that owned the tea set came over, and it was my good friend Aaliyah. She runs the Ambiescence Drum Circle in the Wenatchee Valley on Monday nights that I love so much. It is such a special space to gather and share joyful noise. Now the tea I consume from this lovely glass set will have the memory and association of the good vibes home it came from. That is actually a main point of Celeste Stories in how a connection to truth can impact the value of something, so we now get more out of it. I know some of Aaliyah's heart, and that intention when I use my tea set is now clearer than it would have been if it was from a stranger. One of the stories I shared recently now gets to connect through a handful of people in trinkets I handmade to trade. I was fortunate enough to travel to the beautiful island of Puerto Rico this most recent July. When I was there, one of my favorite memories was finding beautiful shells all along the beaches, and I was sure to also collect some sand from where we stayed. The week leading up to Barter Faire, it finally came together to craft these Puerto Rico trinkets I wanted to bring. I cluttered my room with a table covered in crafts and hot glued 8 individual masterpieces. I had previously purchased some stone bases and also the hinge box that needed painting and decorating. Every one was unique and had love put into the choices and how I designed them. At camp the first early morning, all settled in my space, comfy, and before the bustle of Faire, I invested the time to take pictures of every one of my Puerto Rico trinkets, so I have my own record of what I made. I had the intention to go out that day and try to trade them off and see where I end up with them. A group of us gathered to go walking together. Trading through the aisles is better with company. My buddy Castle, who was walking along with me, was the first person to trade for a trinket. He had this beautiful Larimar ring. I am nearly certain the stone is Larimar. This was a special detail because I got a Larimar pendant in San Juan, Puerto Rico, because the blue stone reminds me of the ocean. Earlier that day, I was explaining how special that ring was, and he had not realized the value of the stone. He traded me the beautiful ring for the glass jar filled with sand and shells, and we agreed that I also had to write him a poem. Since this exchange, not only did we bond tons at Barter Faire, but I have spent time hiking and staying with Castle during a recent adventure. Even more so, this man has become a forever community connection. When I was traveling recently, I wrote a song called Castle, and this was my poem to him. Soon it will be available to listen to my YouTube on CelestesStories, along with more music from me. Family focus for me. A really big part of where my heart was during this fall Barter Faire was considering my family at home. There was talk that some of them would join me this season, but likely they will come together for next spring. This was my second Barter Faire, and emotionally, I was in a drastically different place this time. I am so incredibly grateful how the friends who I started building foundations with are now solidified into family as well. Last time I was thinking so much of myself and what I needed to experience to tell my chain tale. I was seeking out the stories to learn from personally, and I came home with trinkets for my own selfish collection. Recently, I felt called to go with the flow and let synchronicity lead me to where I am meant to be. I didn't plan it this way, but recently the focus has been less about me and more about my community I wish to build. In that value, I was thinking home to the community I am already building. I kept finding things to bring home for my mom's 44th birthday that was coming up. Through that love, it made me want to bring something home for each of my brothers and sister too. I want to spread the abundance that has been shown to me. So in my sourcing for family, I look to my creative community. I have two amazing friends that wire wrap rocks and crystals, and I finally got to support their art properly at this fair. My good friend Trent was only recently begun wire wrapping rings, and I knew for weeks he had worked on an opal ring that my mom would love because it is her birthstone. I had to buy that for her as a gift for her birthday. She loved it, and the wire wrapping art inspires her. My other good friend Max had some lovely wire wrapped pendants, and I wanted to get one for my sister Julie. Max made me an amazing offer for 2 pendants, so I got to enjoy wearing a beautiful one he made as well. I can wear the purple mica, and Julie has been often rocking her aquamarine necklace. Their beautiful work is available through the All Good Things crystal store in Wenatchee, and I believe they do amazing commission work as well. The dream is to make art and have people love it enough to show support. Trading trinkets for genuine connections. One of my favorite trinkets I made was a trash piece using a section of plastic yarn knitted in a square and glued on cool junk I found on the beach. There was this green crusted zipper, a couple of old pennies, and sea glass. I glued on a turquoise turtle and a black pearl and a jar of sand too. It was synchronicity that this trash trinket found a home with Oscar, and he traded a necklace made with Amazonite and coconut beads. Another gift for my mom, and the necklace screams Puerto Rico vibes. A most special trinket exchanged into my everyday life was a fanny pack purse I use all the time. I made this beautiful hinge box filled with a scene of sand and shells, hand-painted with love. This trinket found a home with Rhonda, and I bartered down the price on a fanny pack made from hemp. I wear it often, and I love the colors and the pocket space so much. It really added to my experience for the rest of that weekend as well. My elephant decor for the trip was from here too. I got a little bone elephant from her as well. Another elephant from my collection that is now at 19 crystal elephants. On the last day of trading, I unloaded every trinket I was carrying. I met this vibrant woman named Kelly, who's been going to Faire for decades. When I told her what I'm doing, telling stories and connecting to the trinket canvas she got, she told a story there in the aisle. She shared what her barter fair experience was like back in the 80s when she was 12 years old, and people mostly sold homegrown produce and freshly baked pies. This canvas was shells and sand exchanged for a wire crystal tree. She explained how she turned some low-grade turquoise into a beautiful piece of art wrapped like leaves on a tree. She herself wrapped the copper wire around the rocks that were my mom's favorite color. Another synchronistic gift for her when I got home. A really lovely white-based trinket went to Jesse for a beautiful hand-blown glass marble. He's an artist of many types, so check out his Instagram for cool stuff. NW Evolution. The last exchange I connected with Danny and Kira, and they loved my Puerto Rico trinket concept as well, especially the only one I had left. The wooden base came home with them, and it was synchronicity that I got my hands on this oracle deck in the style of crystals and angels. So far, the energy has been beautiful. The only trinket remained was this awesome heart frame I had set aside for a potential exchange. I told Justin about my gut response in making this trade possible, and we connect like such good buddies. I'm grateful especially for our time chilling in the bus while he cooked. We talked on a special level that weekend. In the end, it all came back around, and I had this painting with 3-dimensional shells, and that found its home with Justin and Annalie. I felt from the beginning that they should have a trinket, and it worked out that this one belongs to them. What building community looks like. I walked up and down this weekend past a white truck getting slowly covered in black signatures. On Sunday, I found my group with Chives, Hassan, and Castle gathered around a new friend. I met Matthew from Tenasket, and he brought his white truck to get covered in names with the intention to seal it with a clear coat and keep it like this all year. I think he said he wanted to bring it back next spring and add more signatures. I have immortalized CelestesStories in a cloud behind the passenger side. I would love to see where this connection goes. I think it was a brilliant example visually to remember the community that gathers here twice a year. This fall, I truly wanted to bring the heart and connections home to my valley. Rather than longing to never leave, I was aching to bring the positive change home to my everyday life. I want to bless my family and community with the lessons I am learning, and I'm thrilled to see where my next adventures take me. I'm proud to have brought with me a little bit of Puerto Rico to spread those stories. I have already experienced new memories I could not have preconceived when I experienced Barter Fair's adventure, and I love how life continues to chain lessons and experiences. I believe Barter Fair is a festival that gives us the chance to be removed from ordinary society and find community in the common hearts around us. I am following the synchronicity to where I will grow next. Perhaps you will be part of the next adventure. Thank you for listening. There was my piece on Fall Barter Fair. More recordings to come.